Welcome to another episode, everyone. Deebo from 111 Neighborhood Crip. Well, they call him Deebo in reference to the character in the movie Friday of the individual who had the whole neighborhood buffaloed, scared to do anything with him. Well, this was Deebo from 111 Neighborhood. He terrorized the greater Los Angeles area and had many individuals living in complete fear, including some of his own homeboys. And then he became sick mentally, became ill, and began to talk to himself. One day, he was hanging out on Van Ness with a .357 Magnum. The police pulled up and opened fire on Deebo and took his life. Let's get into it.
Today we're going to be discussing the life of OG Big Sam, a.k.a. Deebo, from the 111 Neighborhood Crips, who would lose his life. Now, Deebo, a.k.a. Sam Connor, was born in October of 1964 in South Central L.A. Now, Deebo would grow up on 111th Street along with his siblings. He would eventually be a part of the notorious original West Side Neighborhood Crips, which would be founded by Big O'Neal in the early 70s, who was 8 years his elder. Now, eventually, they who would become known as the 111 Neighborhood Crips. Now, the 111s will be one of the most dangerous Crip sets in South Central. Many murders, shootings have been connected to this set since the late 70s until present day. Now, the 111s will be allies with all of the neighborhoods, but especially they will have close ties to the 11-5s and 11 Deuce Neighborhood Crips. Now, the 111s are a part of the Rolling Hundreds. Now, anytime the West Side Rollins connected with the East Coast Crips, they were referred to as the Rolling Coasters. Now, the 111s' biggest rivals are the Hoovers, the Avenue Pyrus, Watergate, and the 7 Trail Hustlers. Now, it's stated that the 111s will be the first neighborhoods to ever beef with the Hoovers. Now, Deebo being one of the original West Side Neighborhood Crips, he was very active in the streets during the 80s. Now, like many gangsters in the 80s, working out and lifting weights was a part of everyday life for Deebo, along with gangbanging. Now, even though gunplay was on the rise at the time, knowing how to squabble was a must, because eventually, as a gangster, you're gonna hit that county, and if you didn't know how to fight, you eventually will become a victim. Now, Deebo was known for being vicious with his hands and known for wrecking shit. Now, by 1982, Deebo would lose his father, Sam, who he was named after, and this will only lead him to going deeper into the gang life. And with the increase of violence in South Central, he would do whatever he had to do to survive. From 1987 and up, Deebo will be in and out of jail, back and forth on various different charges. But a lot of his charges were for jacking people, sometimes with weapons, but most of the time just out of pure fear and intimidation of people being afraid of who he was. And by 1991, he was eventually arrested for a 211 after robbing somebody in the neighborhood. Now, he would eventually be sent to prison. But once out, he would continue to run the streets. Now, in 1995, Ice Cube, who was from the same neighborhood as Deebo, the 111s, will go on to film the movie Friday and create a character named after Big Deebo, and this character would share the same similar traits to him, which was jacking.
Why you tripping, Deebo? Shut up, I'll knock your ass out.
But Deebo from Friday was not only based off of the real-life Big Deebo from the 111s, but also from various Crips from South Central. But also at the same time, gang violence in the 90s had reached its peak. From shootings and killings were pretty much a regular occurrence in everyday life. Now, at the age of 36, Deebo was still active in the streets. In the early 2000s, he would violate his parole, and he would be sentenced to prison for a short time. Now, eventually, he would be back on the streets, but still being a Crip in South Central is dangerous, so having a weapon is a must. But with this choice, Deebo will find himself back in trouble yet again with the law.
And as we can see, Deebo is not as big, even slightly, as the individual that played the character Deebo in the movie Friday. But nevertheless, that's an indication of how vicious this individual was, if you will, how respected, how treacherous he was in the neighborhood, that a character like Deebo, who was formulated, will be named after him. and tailored after him. Let's continue because things began to go awry for old Deebo, as they do for many individuals, most individuals who are in the street, living this sort of life, this gang life, and particularly individuals who have individuals in fear of them in the streets, whether it be out of that fear or otherwise. Your life is in danger when individuals fear you in the street.
And in 2007, he'll be caught with a concealed firearm. Now, after serving some time, Deebo would get his freedom and start trying to get his life back together. But in 2012, he'll be arrested yet again on robbery and burglary charges. But because the state will fail to bring this case to trial by 60 days, this will result in a delay. But after so much trauma and pain and losing homies in the streets to the gang life, Deebo would develop an alcohol and drug addiction that will start to take control over his life. Now, along with the drug addiction and alcohol, he will also be diagnosed with severe schizophrenia and will be prescribed medication. Now, still battling with his addictions, in 2017, he will be arrested for being in possession of drug paraphernalia. But after a small stint in county, he will decide to refocus his life and try to better himself. Deebo will start going to AA meetings and C8 meetings for his drug and alcohol addiction. And not only that, he will find work and doing home remodeling.
City, almost done. We put an overhead for the car. Did this, me and my partner, put it together.
Now in 2019, he would lose a very close friend named Tasha due to an illness, and this would have a major effect on him deeply. But going through as much as Deebo had been through in his life, he would try not to lose hope and stand on the right path, including starting his own marijuana business.
Checking my crop out. Ain't nothing like a plan coming together for the cheddar. Quarter-length leathers. Flipping hard times to better. Getting down for the cheddar. Sound like a rhyme.
Now things will be going good for him for a while, and he would start spending a lot of time with his family and friends, and even homies from the old neighborhood. But at some point in time, Deebo will stop taking his medication for his schizophrenia. Now data shows that most patients stop taking their medication due to the bad side effects or the belief that they no longer need it. And not only did he stop taking his meds, Deebo will ultimately stop going to the doctor for his illness and try to handle it himself. But according to family and friends, Deebo will be found time from time talking to himself.
Right, talking to himself. And it's not, most of the time, it would not be because they believe that they don't need it. It's the side effects of this medication that will cause an individual to go off of the medication. And if you go off of the medication, we're talking about something as serious as schizophrenia, then yeah, you're in danger of going off of the deep end, if you will. Let's see what happened here, because Deebo then went off of his medication. He's older at this point, so he's no longer necessarily in the street. As we can see, he was doing some remodeling on homes and was starting his own cultivating business, if you will. So things were looking up for him, and he appeared to be on the right track. Naturally, he's not going to go out into the street with a weapon, and he's cognizant, he's lucid, and he has no illness. We have to do better with the individuals in this country who do possess mental illness, because it is serious and many individuals have mental illness. And oftentimes it is overreacted to and not addressed properly.
But sadly, things will take a turn for the worse for Deebo. On November 15, 2020, at around 1:50 a.m., police will get a call of a man standing in the middle of the street of Van Ness Avenue and Van Wyck Street holding a .357 Magnum, pointing it at passing cars. Now this call was labeled a 5150, which means a person with a mental illness. And that man was Deebo. Now, not long after this 911 call, a patrol car would arrive moments later. One officer would exit the vehicle on the passenger side, holding his firearm, while the other stayed seated in the driver's seat, holding his firearm drawn. Now, police allege that Deebo turned the firearm towards them, and they immediately opened fire. Deebo would be struck 5 times and fall to the ground. Police would then call the EMTs, who would then transfer Deebo to the hospital. But sadly, not long after arriving, Sam Connor, aka Big Sam, also known as Deebo, would be pronounced dead at the age of 56.
LA County Sheriff's deputies were involved in a deadly shooting of a man. Here's a live look now at the scene. Authorities were called to the intersection of Van Ness Avenue and Van Wyck Street just before 2 o'clock this morning. When deputies arrived at that location, they say they saw a suspect pointing a gun at a vehicle. They told the man to drop the weapon, but when he turned, they say he pointed the weapon at them, and that's when deputies say they opened fire. The suspect died at the hospital. A revolver belonging to the suspect was recovered at the scene.
Now, neither officer at the time were wearing body cams, and there was no surveillance footage recovered from any homes nearby. Now, evidence showed that Officer Johnson fired 13 times and Officer Sino fired twice at Deebo. Now, there would be conflicted statements from officers. Now, Officer Sino would claim that upon arrival, he saw Deebo pointing his gun at a car. So he told Deebo to drop his weapon, and Deebo then aimed the gun towards him, so he opened fire. But his partner Johnson would claim that upon arrival, Deebo immediately started walking towards their patrol car with his gun pointing at them, which in return they opened fire. So according to this officer, there was no command given or words being exchanged between them and Deebo, only gunfire. But the autopsy report would show that Deebo had been shot in the head, neck, abdomen, right thigh, and lower left leg.
Hey.
And the toxicology report would come back and show a presence of cocaine in Deebo's system. Now, due to the evidence at hand, the state would deem that this was a clean shooting by both officers, and it was considered self-defense.
Yeah.
I want to say RIP to Big Sam, aka Deebo, and I want to thank everybody.
Wow. That's crazy. Rest in peace to that man. Rest in peace to Big Deebo, 111 neighborhood Crip. So many black men have lost their lives in these streets one way or another with this genocidal gang culture. It all really stems from that. Not necessarily this case, I suppose, with his mental illness and all. Apparently that's what led him out into the street. But it's a very sad situation. Ironically enough, the officers had no body cam. They're supposed to have it on and going at all times. And somehow, no one in the neighborhood has cameras. How is that? I know that neighborhood. It's dangerous over there. No one has Ring cameras or nothing. Or did the officers go and tell them, or did the officers not look for any footage? Not exhibit or display any footage? Because they have conflicting stories, the officers, as to what happened when they pulled up. I'd like to see what happened as to why one officer unloaded 13 times and the other one just 2, 13 to 2. And many of them struck him enough that it took his life. But I suppose at this point, that's neither here nor there. Whatever happened, it's not going to bring him back. This is not to blame the officers. He's out there with a .357 Magnum walking around. And you're going to, more than likely, and you got 911 calls, you're more than likely going to get yourself in some sort of trouble. It's unfortunate, man. Hopefully us brothers can stop the violence, put these weapons down as it relates to one another, and do something better with our lives and be out here in the street and do something much more productive and save lives. It's draining all of the misery, turmoil, and violence that is on the street and all of the blood that has been shed in the past as it relates to this culture. And we just need to stop it at some point. That's all. We need to stop it soon. Let me know what you think in the comments. Again, rest in peace to that brother, Big Deebo. Stay safe and stay free, people.